What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it's time to give you my reaction to the second college football playoff top 25 rankings for week 11 of the 2023 college football season. The second rankings of the playoff just came out a few moments ago. I don't know if you have seen it yet, or maybe you have seen it, but we're going to give you my reaction here to these playoff rankings. Did the committee get it right, or did the committee get it wrong this week? Kind of compared to last week. You know, looking back to last week, I think the committee really changed things up here a little bit, but, you know, the top 10 is a little bit the same. You know, they only made one change to the top 10 and everything. But again, you know, also they made some changes here to the bottom teams and everything. So we're going to give you my reaction, give my thoughts here on these playoff rankings. Again, did the committee get it right, or did they get it wrong? We're going to find out here in this video as we go through the top 25 college football playoff rankings here for week 11 of the 2023 season. And again, I'm starting from the top this year instead of at the bottom. I'm going to give an early reaction to those top 5 teams. So we'll start from the top and work our way to the bottom. So let's get right into it here with our reaction to the playoff rankings. And looking at the top 5 here, the top 5 stays the same. No question about it. Ohio State here still at number 1. Ohio State's win against Notre Dame is looking like not a really good win now. Notre Dame is still in these playoff rankings, but, you know, that, you know, win's kind of, you know, starting to kind of die down there for this Ohio State team. Ohio State was down by 2 at the half against Rutgers over the weekend. I don't think the committee is going to penalize them for that, though, after they won and, you know, just pulled away in the second half. I think Ohio State should be still here at number 1, so I'm not going to, you know, disagree with that. I think Ohio State still has a better resume than all these other 5 teams. Georgia still here at number 2. Michigan here still at number 3. Then Florida State here at number 4. And then Washington still stays here at number 5. And again, these are the only 5 undefeated teams remaining here in the Power 5 teams out of all the Power 5 teams. So again, you know, they haven't made any changes here to the top 5, so not much to talk about the top 5 and anything like that. But again, you know, like I said last week, I think Florida State, you know, they have a better resume than, you know, both Georgia and Michigan. Georgia just got a top 25 win over a Missouri team, which they only won by 9. So that's a really good win on their resume. So I think they definitely should be ahead. Probably Florida State now, but Missouri is a pretty good competitive team. Michigan, I still think this team should probably be number 4, to be honest. I don't think they should be up there, at least at number 3. I think that's what I said from this past weekend as well. Washington, they got a win over USC. USC was in the playoff rankings last week, but if USC stayed in the playoff rankings this week, that would have been a really good resume win for them. But USC, you know, that win does not look so good now. I mean, obviously, USC is out of the top 25 playoff rankings. So, again, that win does not matter for Washington, but that win against Oregon really matters. So, this is the top 5 here. Again, no change for the playoff committee in the top 5 rankings. Let's now go to 6 through 10. In 6 through 10, there's been one change here. You know, they made a new team here in these 6 through 10 range. Looking at Oregon, they're still here at number 6. Texas at number 7. Alabama at number 8. Ole Miss at number 9. And then Penn State here at number 10. What I don't agree with here is that Alabama is behind Oregon. Alabama, when you look at their resume, they have a better resume than Oregon. I know Oregon has looked dominant ever since that loss to Washington, but Alabama, they haven't played better than Oregon, but, you know, you just look at their resume for this Alabama team. Again, they haven't been really inconsistent. They haven't been consistent this year. But, again, in that LSU game, they were very consistent in that game. But you look at the top 25 wins that they have. You got wins over LSU. You got wins over Tennessee. And then you also got a win over Ole Miss, which they are ahead, of Ole Miss, which I do agree with here. It's all about head-to-head matchups in the regular season for me if I was going to do these playoff rankings. And, again, Alabama kind of deserves to be at least number 7 behind Texas, because the committee is not going to put Alabama ahead of Texas just because of the head-to-head regular season matchup. So I think Oregon probably should be here at number 8, and then Alabama would be at number 7, and then Texas could be at number 6, even though Texas was not very consistent against Kansas State. They allowed Kansas State to come back in that game. We'll talk about Kansas State a little bit later on. But again, I just don't agree with, the committee putting Alabama behind Oregon here. I know Oregon has played a lot better than Alabama recently, but again, Alabama just has a better resume. Again, you look at those wins that they have: Tennessee, LSU, and then Ole Miss. Those are very good wins for this Alabama team. I'm fine with where Ole Miss is at. I mean, obviously, I think Ole Miss has, not like a good enough resume to move past Oregon, but, this top 10 right here, I think, Alabama should definitely be at number 7. And again, they're not going to move past Texas because of that head-to-head regular season matchup. And again, the only change here that the playoff committee, made here in the 6 through 10 range is that Penn State team. So Penn State here at number 10. The reason why is because Oklahoma was here in the top 10 last week. Ole Miss was ranked number 10, and then Oklahoma was ranked number 9 this past week, and they dropped Oklahoma out of the top 10 after that loss to Oklahoma State. Penn State, they don't have like a big resume, but they do have a really good chance to beat a Michigan team that's number 3 here in this playoff rankings. If they do win that game, obviously that's going to boost their resume really good. So again, this is the 6 through 10 range. Again, Alabama, I don't really agree with them being at number 8 still, and they didn't even move up. They didn't even move up here in these playoff rankings after that win over a really good LSU team, which doesn't really make any sense. I mean, obviously Oregon did not really play like a really good Cal team over the weekend, and then Texas was a little bit sluggish, but again, Alabama's not going to move past Texas because of the head-to-head matchup. So again, I think the rankings here from 6 through 10 should be Texas at number 6, Alabama at number 7, and then Oregon here at number 8, and then Ole Miss here at number 9, and then Penn State here at number 10. Now, Oregon does have a win over Utah, but Alabama just has more wins in the top 25. So these are the rankings here from 6 through 10. All right, let's go to 11 through 15. We got Louisville here at number 11, Oregon State at number 12, Tennessee at number 13, Missouri at number 14, and then Oklahoma State here at number 15. So I'm kind of fine where Louisville is at. I mean, obviously they have the win over Notre Dame. That's probably their best win of the season. I mean, there's no question about it. They do have a win over Notre Dame, even though Notre Dame lost over the weekend. But again, they're still in these playoff rankings, so that's enough, for them to keep them here, at least in the top 15. But again, Louisville was behind Missouri this past weekend, which I didn't really agree with that either. I think Missouri doesn't have a better resume than Louisville. I think Louisville's win over Notre Dame is much better than Missouri's win over Kansas State. And again, these rankings just don't make any sense to me sometimes. And then Oregon State here, I'm fine where they're at number 12. Tennessee at number 13. They don't have like a really good resume, which is really surprising me. Again, I wasn't really, agreeing with Tennessee being at number 17 last week because I thought they should be at least at the bottom. I do have them ranked at the bottom of my top 25 just because they don't have that key win. But they have a really good opportunity against Missouri this week. And, Tennessee, ahead of Missouri also doesn't make sense. I think Missouri should be at least ahead of Tennessee as well. But here's Missouri at number 14. They're coming off that loss to Georgia, so moving down to, a couple spots. They were at number 12 last week. That was another thing that I didn't make sense either. You look at Missouri from last week. They were ahead of LSU, which the team that they got beat by in the regular season, which didn't make sense to me at all. Missouri, you look at them, obviously, I mean, tough loss to Georgia, but they only lost by 9. And, you look at the AP poll, over the weekend, they were out of the top 25 in the AP poll, which didn't make any sense either. So, but again, I don't really agree with Missouri being ahead of a 6-3 LSU team. And again, head-to-head matters for me if I was going to do these playoff rankings, and I think they definitely should be behind LSU. Even though LSU is 6-3, they lost to a tough Alabama team. But again, I think LSU, based off of that regular season matchup against Missouri, they definitely should be ahead of this Missouri team. But again, Missouri didn't drop a bunch of spots, like I thought they would. At least, they didn't drop out of the top 25 here. Again, they only lost by 9 to this Georgia team. So, and then Oklahoma State, they jump here, at really good spots here. Of course, after that win over Oklahoma, that's a huge win for them. I kind of find where they're at. I don't think they should be ahead of Missouri, but, I think Oklahoma State definitely is fine where they're at. They're at least a top 15 team, so that's the really good sign there for this Oklahoma State team. But again, what I don't agree with here is that Missouri is ahead of LSU still. I just think head-to-head matters. I know Missouri is 7-2, but, records don't really matter to me either. But Tennessee and Missouri here, they'll play each other this week, and, if Missouri does move down again, I think, if LSU wins this week, they should be at least down. Both of those teams, if Missouri loses this weekend, they'll be 7-3, and if LSU wins, they're 7-3 as well. So again, Missouri would be probably behind LSU just because of that regular season matchup. And it's kind of the same thing what the committee did last week. Again, Missouri was ahead of LSU last week, and they do it here again. So these are the rankings here from 11 through 15. All right, 16 through 20, we got Kansas here at number 16, Oklahoma at number 17, Utah at number 18, LSU at number 19, and then Notre Dame here at number 20. Kansas, this is a really good team. I think I'm fine where they're at. Of course, they're ahead of Oklahoma because they beat them in the regular season matchup about 3 weeks ago. So I definitely do agree with the committee there putting Kansas ahead of Oklahoma. Oklahoma drops, 7 or 11 spots after that tough loss to Oklahoma State on the road. I'm fine where Oklahoma is, but that was a very tough loss for them. They're sitting there at 7-2 now, and then Utah here at number 18, which that's very surprising to me. Utah doesn't move up any in the rankings. I think it's just because of the team that they were playing against over the weekend. Utah's win over UCLA doesn't look really good now because UCLA just lost to Arizona. So that, win doesn't look really good now for the Utes. But they're here at number 18 here. And then LSU, tough loss to Alabama. They dropped to number 19. And again, I don't think LSU should have dropped this far. I think they should be at least still in the top 15. I think this is still a really good team. And again, they were right there with Alabama in the first half. Second half just got away from them. And again, I don't think LSU should have been penalized after that loss. I know, they should drop, a few spots, but I didn't really penalize LSU after, losing, like 42-28 to Alabama. I mean, I think they were, the first half performance was enough for me to keep them, at least inside that top 15, or I should say maybe top 20, wherever, whatever I ranked them, in my top 25 on Monday and everything. But again, LSU and Missouri, those are two teams that played in the regular season. LSU, again, I know they're a 6-3 team. Missouri is a 7-2 team. But again, record really doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't really matter who has the better overall record. Again, LSU has the regular season win, so I think that's the reason why LSU should be ahead of Missouri. And again, the committee did this last week. Missouri, ranked LSU, actually ranked Missouri ahead of LSU. Missouri was at number 12 last week, and then LSU was at number 14, which really didn't make any sense whatsoever. But LSU is here at number 19 this week. Notre Dame at number 20, drops 5 spots after that loss to Clemson on the road. I'm very surprised that Notre Dame is down at the bottom from 21 through 25, though, because this Notre Dame team, it seems like they're not really playing their best like they used to in the early part of the season. But maybe Notre Dame is kind of getting some credit there for that, competitiveness against, Ohio State. And they had that tough loss to Louisville as well. Those are 2 good losses for this Notre Dame team. But they're here at number 20 after dropping 5 spots after that loss to Clemson. So 16 through 20 here. Again, LSU, moves down to number 19, even though they lost to Alabama, just by 14 points. But again, LSU should be definitely ahead of Missouri just based off of the regular season matchups. And again, I don't think the committee looks ahead to like regular season matchups. What I do agree with here is that Kansas is ahead of Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State is ahead of both Kansas and Oklahoma just because they have the regular season matchup. You can put Texas now ahead of Oklahoma just because of different records, even though Oklahoma beat Texas in the regular season. But again, Oklahoma has now lost like 2 straight weeks in a row, and you have to put them right here behind like Texas at least. So these are the rankings here from 16 through 20. Let's now go to the bottom teams, 21 through 25. All right, so we got Arizona here at number 21. I'm fine where they're at. Number 22, where did Iowa come from? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, why is Iowa ranked, to be honest? I mean, Iowa's not ranked in the AP poll. Yeah, they have a 7-2 record, but where is the resume? And plus, they don't have a really good offense. The defense is really strong for them, but they don't have like a good resume. They don't have any top 25 wins. They have a tough loss, to a Penn State team that is really good, but that's a good loss for them, maybe perhaps. But they weren't competitive in that game. They got shut out in that game, which doesn't really make any sense whatsoever. And plus, how is Iowa ahead of a 8-1 Tulane team? Tulane, yes, I know they're a Group of 5 team, but Tulane was very competitive against Ole Miss, and they should, get some credit for that game. They did lose, but, they didn't have their starting quarterback in that game. But Tulane definitely should be getting some credit for, that loss to Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss is like a top 10 team. They're like ranked number 9 in these playoff rankings. And again, Tulane, I know they had a tough one against East Carolina over the weekend, so maybe that's the reason why they didn't move up a bunch and at least be here at number 22. But instead here they're at number 23, sitting there at 8-1. Again, their one loss comes to Ole Miss, so that just does not make any sense here what the committee did. And then North Carolina. Where did North Carolina come from here at number 24? I know North Carolina's a pretty good team, but again, I didn't have North Carolina in my top 25 rankings on Monday just because of those 2 straight losses to Virginia and Georgia Tech. 2 bad teams in the ACC. Virginia is worse than Georgia Tech, but Georgia Tech is turning out to be a really good team now, so I guess, that loss isn't really too bad for them. But again, I'm not really, thinking that North Carolina should be ranked here because of that loss to Virginia. Again, one of the worst teams in the country. And again, North Carolina and Iowa just came out of nowhere. They should have put like other group of 5 teams in here. Where is Liberty at? And also, where is James Madison at? Both of those teams are still undefeated. And, they've been, very dominant in their games. I know they don't play anybody. But you at least got to, give them some credit for what they've done this year. And then Kansas State, they still remain here in the top 25. But I don't have a problem with that. I think Kansas State was definitely competitive in that game. I don't really disagree with the committee here, keeping Kansas State here, at least at number 25. At least they moved them down a couple spots. They're sitting there at 6-3, but if they do lose again this weekend, they'll definitely be out of the top 25. But I think this is still a really good Kansas State team. Remember, they were down like 24-7, and then they came back from behind in that game. So again, the committee probably give them some credit for the competitiveness in that game. So that loss doesn't really look too bad for Kansas State now. But again, North Carolina, and Iowa just came out of nowhere. I mean, Iowa doesn't have like a really good resume, and again, their offense is just really terrible, and their offense, like I said, is just horrible. So I don't know where Iowa and North Carolina came from. I think North Carolina is a better team than Iowa, but North Carolina, based off of those 2 losses in a row and, back-to-back weeks, I just cannot rank North Carolina here if I was going to be a playoff committee guy. So I think North Carolina should not be ranked. Iowa should not be ranked either, even though they're like 7-2 on the year. But again, records don't really matter. What really matters is to me is like head-to-head matchups in the regular season and also based off of, also resumes. So again, Tulane, I think they have a better resume than Iowa, even though they don't have any top 25 wins, but they were at least competitive, in that game against Ole Miss. And I'm fine where Arizona's at. I think Arizona should be at least in the top 20, but I'm fine where they're at here. They have some amazing wins. They have that win, of course, over UCLA, which isn't like a big win for them now because UCLA is not at the top 25 anymore, but again, Arizona should be just ranked just because of what they've been doing this year. I also ranked them in my top 25 on Monday just because of what they've done this year. So Arizona here at number 21, and then Iowa here at number 22, Tulane here at number 23, and then North Carolina and Kansas State here at 24 and 25. So again, from 21 through 25, I just don't agree with Iowa and North Carolina here being in the top 25. I think somebody else should be getting some credit. Maybe it's another 6-3 team. Maybe West Virginia, but they have a loss to Penn State. That was not a bad loss for West Virginia, but I think Iowa and North Carolina, they just came out of nowhere. Iowa has a terrible offense, and North Carolina lost back-to-back weekends. So let me guys know what you think about that, and also, do you agree or disagree with the committee? I don't really agree with, some things here, but I do agree with some things here in the committee. But again, the committee is just really changing things up, it seems like, every single week by week. But again, let me guys know what you think about these top 25 playoff rankings for Week 11 of the 2023 season, and we'll see what happens on Saturday if the playoff rankings are going to be definitely shaking up once we get into the last 3 weeks here of the season. So let me guys know what you think about these top 25 playoff rankings. Do you agree with the committee or do you disagree with the committee? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports Channel.